We will be speaking about thoughts and feelings real quick. Starting off with the thoughts. Let's make these thoughts a cloud. An electrical magnetic cloud composed of negative and positive energy. We'll just decorate it here. All right. And so when this cloud rains, because this cloud is connected to the respective reality, this thought is raining negative and positive electrical signals, currents, waves, what have you. And they're all connected. As it rains, they're all connected. These are wireless connections. They're all connected, right? So you got these thoughts, and it's raining down, and it's connected. So let's say the human being is here, right? Here's the head. This is the head of the human being. And let's just say this is the body. Put the hands like that. Now we're going to draw the feelings. So feelings are coming into play by how the thoughts are being formed, dealt with, and created. And through this filtration process, the feelings come out and penetrate through the human being. And out here, a certain electromagnetic oscillating vibe starts to get created. So we could call that the vibe right here. But inside here, inside are the feelings. So we have inside are the feelings. Now, what the feelings are doing here is they are radiating the thoughts inside the human being. And this is pretty much how it would work from a very basic intergenetical terminology. Now, what the cool thing is that this information here can be tested. This information, when it comes to every negative and positive thought that is correctly concentrated and filtered into feelings, can be tested by you and you alone. You have the ability to test this information, whether of how it works or doesn't work for yourself. So say you're a meditator, it might be a little bit easier for you to take this information and bring it into testing, while others who do not necessarily form a balanced, concentrated thought feeling means of calming themselves will probably have a harder problem with trying to concentrate on a thought or a respective feeling that was created and formed from a thought. Because when you're bringing your awareness to a feeling, what you're doing is you are trying to focus on the respective radiation of the thought. So feelings, we call them feelings, but what feelings initially are the radiation of thoughts. So when it comes to the feelings, they're initially the radiation of thoughts. And if you bring your awareness, this right here is the awareness. We can say that the awareness is simply being electrically put together through a specific singularity, and it gets processed through the respective animated object, i.e. the human being here, and then feelings are created from the thoughts because the feelings simply are radiating the thoughts that are being processed. And it's as simple as that. And so to test this by yourself at your home or wherever you may be at a time or hour, you are able to test this through the concentration of your respective awareness. You take the thoughts, whether you're judging, whether you are feeling happy or very calm, or as some people say, I just feel normal, whatever the feeling may be, if you bring your awareness to that and then you contemplate it, you use your thoughts to contemplate your feelings. So it seems kind of paradoxical, if you may. You're taking this process and using the awareness of the process to think of its process, which is very interesting. It's radiating yourself into yourself. This is where meditation comes into play, because meditation teaches how this process happens in layman's terms. But initially, if you were to look at everything as an energy, and simply an energy, meaning everything's electrical, there's a magnetical system that repels and attracts different elements to come together in order to create a certain process so it can work harmoniously as one unit of connecting different things together. We are able to see that all of this can be processed. All of this can make sense only if a respective individual takes the time to concentrate and test this within themselves. Testing the thoughts and testing the feelings. And when you're speaking to people and you're able to give out empathy and be neutral and be understanding and also apply reason, all these are different radiations coming from the thoughts that are being processed from what is actually being experienced or sensed, right? The senses is what gives you the perception of what you experience. And through your senses and through this experience, these thoughts and these feelings work as a unit in order to make it a reality, in order to make everything around you be more a focus of processing how to get yourself to the next step, how to bring about a consistent, logical conversation with another individual. They talk, you listen to them, you're coordinating your thinking with their thinking, and then you talk after or interrupt their thought train, if you may, and then you get to bring about your thoughts and express how you feel through your thoughts, which is what brings about the expression. Now, emotion, we could say emotion is basically the disturbances of this process. Now, disturbances are neutral. A disturbance, like interrupting somebody when they're speaking, is a neutral interruption. Nobody has to actually get mad about that because maybe there's an important point that has to be conveyed. So emotions are kind of like a disturbance, an interruption between this process. It allows itself to be known as such. It happens so quickly, like an electric spark. The best way, since I can't put this into animation, the best way to show you through how emotions work with the thoughts and feelings is by simply a finger snap. Now, if I had say if this was an electrical wire, and I was to make them, this was a negative and this was a positive, I was to make them touch. That's exactly how an emotion kind of works when the thoughts are being processed into feelings. Depending on the respective experience, where the thoughts are being attracted, the thoughts are always being attracted to the awareness. This is why I said this is the awareness, because if there's any confusion here, let me clarify. This part, think of this as a respective field that's being slung into a singularity, and this field is attracting this data, this field here. So this field, I could even write it's in its own respective field, right? And this field of thoughts is respectively going into this field and being processed. All this in the singularity is being processed by a comprehensive consciousness block the conscious consciousness, the unconscious, the subconscious, all work together to process this data. So, because there's so much energy being created here. And so you have different electrical, fine energetic oscillations working together to bring the information into harmonized understanding for the respective lower fields of consciousness. Respectively, the ego, where the human being doesn't necessarily have to look inside to see what's going on. They're already given a respective automatic processing code that's happening in them that brings about the evolution for them just to simply live the life. So to simply live the life is to simply know that there's something processing giving you the ability to live the life. The anxiety comes in when there's confusion because this is not taught in school. The thoughts and the feelings are not taught that the human being has the complete responsibility to bring these things into harmony. If the outside version of you, if I may, the external part that utilizes the senses and thinks that it's in control, that part can sometimes, well, for the majority, can be out of whack because it doesn't understand that its thoughts are neutral, whether it's going to get negative and it's going to get positive. That's something that's going to happen. In life, there will be negative and positive situations, but you have to ask, where do they come from? Where are the causal links that allow the negative and positive thoughts to occur? And then the feelings or the radiation, they're the radiative vibe within the human being that gets to actually experience the feeling from what they are thinking. Whether the human being is thinking neutral positive thoughts, then they are going to feel very in harmony. They're going to feel like they can read another person very fluently because they are allowing themselves to really be focused on what's going on in their daily life. However, there can be interruptions, right? And interruptions goes back to the emotion, like a spark that happens here. And I could actually draw, like, let's just say it's an X.
So we'll put an X right here, then we'll put an X right here, and it sparks.
When this spark occurs, it's too fast for the respective awareness to process that spark. So it just releases itself. This can get into rage and anger. So when this spark goes off, it doesn't necessarily become, the emotion is still a feeling. So let's just make that clear here. Emotions are still feelings. But what emotions are the after effect of a spark still being radiated into a feeling. So this just sparks, it just bing, and then these feelings can get a little, let me draw this. Then the feelings can get out of whack. The feeling can get out of whack. And so this out of whack feeling can cause the thoughts. This radiation obviously gets absorbed by the thoughts again. This is why it's radiation, because you're radiating your feelings back into your thoughts. Let me repeat that. We radiate our feelings back into the thoughts. So the thoughts take this and it continues as a system. It's like it's a big circle of life. These radiate, they get electrified back into the cosmic electrical life energy, or for those of you that understand energy in a simple manner, life is energy. Life has to continue its existence. Whether you're a human being or not a human being, there is life. And life is purely energy, just being compressed into different states, expressing itself through different singularities, or as example, different life forms. And you can say that these feelings, again, radiate back into thoughts. Now, when these thoughts come back, these thoughts are trying to be processed. You're thinking, but the thinking tremendously disturbed by the out of whack feelings or emotions in this case. And again, the human being starts to express this out of controlism. And through this out of controlism, the human being expressively shows no control and can be in a very badly out of the good human being state They can be very out of control from the control that they had before becoming out of control. So rage, anger, all these very heated up things can really express themselves. And a human being can actually pick up on this while it's happening. If a human being is really angry, then they will also notice that their awareness is heating up. So they'll feel their body, their head, they'll feel certain effects in them heat up. It's because the feelings are out of whack. It's radiating a spark that's disturbing the system. Now, emotions can be steered. And again, I was telling you, what is the part that's able to recognize the heating within the actual processing system? This is the awareness. The awareness is not the thoughts. The awareness is not the feelings. The awareness is its own field of electricity, all right? It's its own fine electrical field that is in a constant state of being data. It's pure information that's being brought into a singularity. Of course, we know this is from the spirit. The spirit is this life-giving energy, a piece of the entire universe, in the center of things, bringing this process about, allowing this energy to be harmonized as an actual process. But we're not going to go there. We're just going to stick to the feelings and the thoughts and this consciousness block. So this consciousness block is able to perceive itself acting up, though it may have lost control over its system of navigating. What it can do is it can still pull that gear. It can still pull that gear like an airplane trying to go up and not crash into the land. It can still pull that gear up a little bit by really steering the thoughts, by calming itself down, like reminding itself. This is why meditation is so important, because meditation, it can access different automatic thoughts in itself, to saying, okay, I need to relax. Something just keeps, I need to relax, and keeps pulling itself until this initial disturbance has been
neutralized
in its full velocity, right? And so this can harmonize the actions and the expression that's being taken place while this disturbing feeling, this interruption to the thought feeling process, this respective emotion is bring forth into expression. All right. So for clarification here, I'll just write that these are emotions. All right. And this is a basic summary of how the thoughts, the feelings are a process that work in the awareness of the human being, that work for the awareness of the human being, and how emotions are also expressed as disturbances, disturbing feelings that create a certain amount of velocity, which is expressed as uncontrollable, but can still be steered if the awareness has the initial neutrality within itself to bring this into effect. Now, one must also consider the spirit. The spirit is the almighty, calming, neutral, life-giving energy. For something to give forth existence, for something to bring life together, it has to be incredibly powerful, but also incredibly neutral, positive, because it's bringing forth life. It's bringing forth something to improve itself. So it is positive. It's neutral because it doesn't actually get involved. It's already involved enough. It doesn't need to do anything else but give power. So this power can have a relationship with the awareness. The awareness can bring itself into a relationship with this life-giving energy. The energy that gives all this electricity. This energy, the spiritual energy, this creation energy, can have a relationship with the respective awareness. This relationship becomes closer through the respective harmonization of the awareness, taking this process and harmonizing it to its highest value. And when the consciousness really does learn how to process these feelings and thoughts, it becomes like an antenna. Their antenna starts to really point itself in the direction of what the universe is actually trying to convey in this life form. So this life form has a specific experience to go through in life. And this life-giving energy gives life for this respective destiny to fulfill something of itself. Knowing that your thoughts are not you and knowing that your feelings are not you can give you more power to be more confident of being one with yourself. So you can point that inner antenna to the actual life-giving energy, and this relationship can become closer. Challenges in life test how you process this system. So let's say you're this eternity. You're an eternal energy. You are an eternal energy, by the way. So as an eternal energy, you're given a respective reality to work certain thoughts and feelings. Your job is to take these thoughts and to process them into feelings and radiate it outside yourself. It's a very simple task. It's not complicated. Now, what makes it complicated is this guy right here, the awareness. The awareness, once its respective field has all this data that it's connected to. It thinks it knows everything. It wants to be the best. That's not bad at all, but it can get over prideful, which can cause itself to lose itself. It thinks it knows everything. It doesn't need any help. It doesn't recognize the process because it's so full of itself. But it's given this task to take this energy during a certain duration of time, a given lifetime, and it's tasked to take this and create good fuel for the entire universe. Because you are this energy. If you're an eternity that's giving life to yourself, it's doing this to specifically take this energy and neutralize it. Human beings are typically selfish when it comes to this because they're so hyper-focused into their awareness, they mislead themselves into actually contemplating their thinking, their thoughts, and contemplating the feelings, the radiation of their thoughts. And this can get into selfishness, this egoism. The thoughts are nothing but thoughts. The awareness pulls the strings to these thoughts. And depending on how you pull the string to these thoughts would depend on the feelings that are radiated, which also affects other people's thoughts around you, which also affects other feelings. And then again, also goes into the atmosphere and also keeps going out and going out and going out because you're also light. You're reflecting light, right? And light is radiation. And so all this radiation goes out and inevitably your own power attracts it back into yourself. So you get to experience what you're creating outside yourself. And this is how this process works. Now, if you ever read Billy Meyer, The Might of Thoughts, if you ever read this book, you'll see that, I got Pikachu here. Because every single human being of an intelligent and rational kind should live and manage his or her life himself or herself, therefore also be independent in his or her thoughts, feelings, and actions, and should bear full responsibility for them. It is necessary that the very rubber of one's life is taken in hand and that one's thoughts are formed in a conscious and controlled way. One's thoughts must be free and open, creative, positive, and constructive, and indeed in a form which is conscious, which sets the zeal, the almighty highest goal in life, the almighty destiny, and which brings the zeal into fruition. So this means that what makes you happy in life, what gives those feelings of happiness and joy and full pleasure and the pleasure of being life itself, really gets recognized because the awareness really starts learning how to take control of their entire spectrum. They learn that no matter where they are this process. Their awareness is the singularity of this process. They are not this, they are not this, they are this, they are everything. How this accepts this depends on this. It depends on how it creates the process. It has a spirit form. The spirit form is just the eternity. It is just the part that ensures that this process stays together forever. Forever until it reaches a point where it can move on and refine itself into a higher task. But that's a whole conversation into a whole different field of understanding. First, before we can get into where we're trying to go by using this process, we must learn how to use this process. And the answers will come. Remember, the awareness has information. It collects information. It's a field of information, a field of data. It's an electric field, all right? Electric field. Everybody is electricity. That's why when you're getting older, for some reason, the biological body is growing. And for some reason, the baby respectively gets a little intellectual, smarter. It expands in its consciousness. Well, how do you think this happens? Quite simply, there are different layers that are compressed together to work as one. That you don't have to sensibly see it with your visual cortex or your occipital lobe. You don't need to see it. Just to throw this out there, let's just say this is your brain, right? Here's your brain. Here's your eyeball, right? Oh, and here's your connections to your brain from the eyeball. And your brain has to pass through the pineal gland. And then it has to come right here. This is the occipital lobe. I think I spelled it wrong, but bear with me. So this is the occipital lobe, right? And this is how your eye actually sees. It has to go through the entire brain. You actually see from the back of your brain. Look it up. You see from the back of your brain. So understanding the process makes the living more powerful, makes the living more honorable, more valuable. Love is earned. The feeling of love in life is earned. The feeling of understanding other people and being able to be of a respective, true human being comes from this process. Thought creation. The conscious consciousness is in no form capable of independently creating a thought. Neither can the conscious consciousness, the ego, form it, further develop it, and bring it into function. Therefore, it directly relies on the processes from the subconsciousness and the unconscious to impulse these thoughts into activity, which are dispersed among all the senses, including the body, the brain, the conscious consciousness, the unconscious, the subconscious. So it comes from the subconscious. The unconscious takes this, then the conscious consciousness, then the brain, then the body expresses the final actions that take place. The sensors between the different blocks of consciousness act as filtration, protection, force, energy fields, which is responsible that not everything in terms of thoughts, seen things, heard things, and so forth are penetrated into the conscious consciousness, the brain. This is the ego. This is the expression of the ego. If this wasn't the case, electrical shocks could naturally vaporize the nerves to the brain. Because remember, everybody is energy. And it is possible that if you put your finger in your mouth for a second and you stick this into, I don't know, an electric socket, quite frankly, I'm going to have to tell you, you will get electrocuted. If it's active, of course. The thoughts that are processed in the subconsciousness are neutralized into an ultralogical result, giving back to the conscious consciousness exactly what is deemed logical. It only works to make sense of everything by its own capacity, carrier holder of ultralogical processing energy. Whereas the ego, the conscious consciousness, the part of you right now that's like judging the information that's being conveyed to you, takes this as impulses, processing this energy itself into a registered, concentrated form. By this, ultimately, the negative and the positive thoughts are brought to fruition. Thoughts. The actual decision and deeds of every human being are only partially based on fully conscious considerations. The greatest part stems from the area which is withdrawn from the immediate influence of the will, the subconsciousness. To a large extent, determines the course of light, and the destiny of life of the individual human being. Over the course of time, the thoughts can gain such a might over the human being that their entire character will change. No personality and no character grow by themselves because they are formed, grow, and unfold themselves according to the distinct leading thoughts. Depending on the consciousness, evolution, the character of a human being is shaped. Control over the consciousness must be given at all times in order to reach the highest state of evolution and constantly expanding the consciousness, cognition, perceptual training. The body serves as a dwelling for the spirit which gives life. First, a process of thinking is necessary before a will or towards something can result. So these will be quick notes to go through. Might of thoughts. Every human being has an aura around himself/herself, a radiation, a force field of the consciousness-based radiation. Okay? The color/good or evil energy output comes into play according to the kind of thinking of the processor. So the consciousness, the awareness, processing information. Knowledge means tremendous might and right formation of the life. Right thinking and knowing form a tremendous might. Right thinking and knowing can form a tremendous might. Radiation of thoughts. What the human being thinks radiates beyond their own aura and also influences the environment, such as people, animals, and plants, etc., and it comes back into themselves. That's why it's very important. Thought power, aside from the spiritual power, is unsurpassably stronger than any other power. Much tougher, mightier, and more undestroyable than all matter and outer influences and conditions. A true master
knows how to use this entire process.
The greatest that the human being is able to accomplish is the self-mastery through thought discipline. So that entire process. From this, the human being acts from the world of causes, from the world of their thinking. I would recommend reading this book, right? The Might of Thoughts, written by Billy Meyer. There we go there. Creational thinking, right? No matter is able to resist a healthy, determined, and strong thought. Thought programming. Each thought anchors itself in the subconsciousness, and from there embodies itself in the form of the resulting deeds, etc., and influences the psyche, the physical body, and the environment. The thinking carries the human being upwards, up to unexpected heights, or it hurls the human being downwards because the process is having too many disturbances within itself and not being recognized by the awareness, the processor. Thought energy. Thinking creates energy of tremendous power. Each and every thought sends out energetical waves of the highest frequency. The thoughts radiate as immensely strong energy waves, which are based in heretofore unimmeasurably high frequencies. They leave the framework of their origin and speed out into the every space-time expansion, or point in reality and the expanses of the universe without stop, which bring back the necessary energy effects and conditions entirely according to their kind. Depending on the concentration of the thought, they race away as an invisible but gigantic might, which further charging and strengthening themselves on other thought energies of the same kind. After traveling into the deep expanses of the universe, reaching all space, time of their outermost range, they then search for their way back. So it's going to come back to you. You will get to really experience what is being created from the way that you think and feel. As this happens, their form/power, radiation energy transforms itself into an opposite through this attraction, just as a magnet hitting the framework of origin with great might, for the better or for the worse. So we don't want to be over positive. We don't just want to focus on one power. Both powers are needed to create one. What we want to focus on is that one. We want to focus on that negative and positive. And a great example is being calm, being rational, being logical, accepting the truth, taking responsibility, being respectful. All these essences, all these high values, the morality, being able to be understanding, knowing when to stand up. If you see something happening, speak up if you think it's necessary. Now, obviously, if it's a very dangerous situation, don't put yourself in that situation. You don't need to endanger your life. But knowing when to speak up and knowing when to shut up is very much a part of this process. Magnetical life processing. Pay close attention here. The positive plus pole is capable of attracting only negatives, whereas the negative minus pole repels everything if the counterpart is not positive. In nature, a radiated thought, whether negative or positive, will be hurled back again exactly as it was sent out, only very immensely strengthened. The powers become transformed since, according to nature, the learning requirement of the consciousness in every wise stands always at the forefront. The boomerang effect is hurled away and caught again. The boomerang in this sense is an example of the thoughts. The power of the thought emission is thus the concentrated throwing out of thoughts which return with a reality life-changing universal effect, turning its return power into a thought return reception, transformed by the overall cosmic electromagnetic life-giving energy, or energy in itself.